Good stuff. Thank you, James. Okay, so hello, everybody. My name's Matt Findle Hawkins, and I'm the CEO of TAP Thank and Praise. And I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar. And the title of it is How Staff Wellbeing is the Key to a Successful School. And for those of you that don't know, before I introduce Kerry, for those of you that don't know who I am and what TAP is, TAP, which stands for Thank and Praise, is a free-to-use digital social thanking platform which enables members of the public to send messages of thanks and show their appreciation to key workers in education and in healthcare. We started well before COVID. We started in January 2019, and since COVID, our profile has been raised quite considerably as the sort of public have shown, you know, a propensity towards showing gratitude and giving thanks. And our objective is just to enable members of the public to give their thanks and show appreciation to key workers. So I'd like to introduce you all to Kerry. Who's the head teacher of Ayres Monsall Primary School, who are one of the early adopters of the TAP platform. Hi, Kerry.
Hello.
Hi. And very briefly, I'd like to explain a bit about Kerry, because she's not only is she special to us, but she's a very special head teacher. So Kerry is Kerry is the Times Educational Supplement 2019 Head Teacher of the Year finalist. She's also the head teacher of the first primary school in the country to receive the Princess Royal Training Award for the impact of staff CPD in mental health, and the first school to receive the Mental Health in Schools Award Gold status. Kerry's commitment to enabling pupils and staff to thrive is underpinned by a firm belief in developing a culture of well-being. Kerry is also school improvement consultant and a national SMSC award verifier, and has recently worked with BBC Teach on mental health. And Kerry's recently completed a master's in leadership of school mental health and wellbeing. I've heard she did very, very well and got top marks. And she's one of the first people in the UK to actually complete this qualification. Okay, and very briefly, just before we get started, welcome Kerry, by the way. Just very briefly before we get started, just to take you on a sort of mini journey as to why TAP was created in the first place. The original founders of TAP, a husband and wife a couple called Sandy and Philip Curtis, have a teenage son with special needs. And originally they're from South Africa. And when they moved over to the UK, and their son Donovan went off to school, he went to special schools for the speech impaired. They were completely stunned with this amazing level of educational and social care that they received. And they couldn't believe, when they wanted to say thank you for this amazing service they received, they couldn't believe that there wasn't any kind of platforms in place to say thank you. And they thought that it was really important to try and produce this. If you wanted to complain, everybody knew how to complain, but this idea of it being simple and easy and straightforward to say thank you to these amazing teachers, this amazing good service they'd received, that's why they came up with the idea of TAP Thank and Praise. And then we developed this into the organisation that we have nowadays. Okay. Okay. So Kerry, I'd like to, you know, you're the main draw, you're the star attraction.
Pressure now.
Yes. So I'd like to sort of structure this by giving you a set of structured questions, and you answer at will. So listen, just some general questions to warm things up. I mean, can I ask you, what was your main reason for wanting to enter into the education sector originally?
I think for me, I'm quite moralistic, and it really was that moral purpose of wanting to make a difference. My mum was a deputy head teacher in an inner city school in Leicester, and some of my earliest memories as a child was when I was kind of ill, was poorly and couldn't go to school. I'd actually go into school with my mum. And I'd kind of sit on her teacher's chair and kind of fall asleep until I felt a bit better, and then I'd join in the days where you could take your children to work in that kind of situation. And just kind of from a very early age, got exposure to, through her, through schools and productions and what children were doing, and just grew up around it and kind of loved it. So then with that moral purpose of just wanting to make a difference, that was the way that I saw my mum do that. So for me, it was quite a natural transition. I'll be really honest, when I started my career, if you asked me would I want to be a head teacher, I would say not in a million years. Never had the intention to become a head teacher, but kind of, I say, when I was a deputy, did a period of acting headship, and quite enjoyed sitting in the big chair, and just then carried on from there, really.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for that, Kerry. So one of the things that TAP does as a platform is it also supports fundraising within schools. And basically we have a donation platform specific to each and every school, and then we try to get all funds matched by corporate sponsors. So for example, one of our corporate sponsors is Book Life Publishing, who are supporting this event as well. So Kerry, this isn't a leading question, but it kind of leading question though. What do you consider to be the biggest challenges in education personally?
I think there's probably different responses. I think, as you've rightly said, clearly kind of that public sector finance is as a head a real challenge, to actually balance what we need to do with children in terms of, you know, the academic, and actually what we want to do because our children need it. And for us, the Book Life is amazing because we're in a very challenging area of deprivation, and our children don't get access to books. So something like this for us is a real benefit. I cannot sit here in a wellbeing kind of webinar and not say, as a head teacher, one of the significant challenges we face is mental health within our workforce. You know, yes, we've got awards and that's all great, but everybody suffers from mental health. And even in my school, you know, staff still have those days where they struggle because we're human. We have good days, we have bad days, and we have external pressures, and they can affect us in school. And if staff aren't happy, aren't motivated, don't feel valued and that they're making a difference, they're not going to want to get out of bed in the morning. And so it is really important that we look after our staff, not only so they can be the best teachers or teaching assistants that they can be, so that the children in my school get the best education they can, but actually so they are motivated to do the best job that they can. Because if they feel valued and they're in a happy and positive environment, then ultimately they're going to want to stay. And again, my school is incredibly challenging. We're lowest 10% national deprivation, really high special needs, really high child protection. So recruiting and retaining staff, even with all of those accolades, is really difficult because it's such a tough job. And it really does take those special individuals that really want to go that extra mile and make that difference in people's lives. So for me, that well-being, retaining, and actually developing staff so they do have that long-lasting career, and achieve their goals, just as we try and support the children's dreams and ambitions as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't suppose you can elaborate a little bit on the steps that you feel, perhaps the steps that you've taken or the steps that can be taken in order to support that kind of teacher well-being.
So for me as a head, it's really critical that it is part of the culture and fabric of your school. So mental health and wellbeing is a golden thread throughout our school ethos and our school curriculum, and it has to be. And it has to start right from the top. Otherwise, it doesn't have that presence and importance that it needs. For us, we've obviously done whole school training. We've embedded it throughout our curriculum. So our children learn and develop those character skills of resilience, perseverance, coping strategies. But we've also done training session with our staff on all of those. And our staff also access psychological support as well with psychologists. And all of our staff have gone through psychological profiling, which I find some people go, ooh, or some people go, ooh, depending on where you sit on that. But for us, it's great because it helps our staff understand your mindset, your behaviour, and how every single person in that culture, that setting, is critical to making that setting work and that setting be a happy and productive place. But then we've brought in things critically like TAP, because as I said, to motivate people, it's the little things that make a difference. It's those little thank yous, that little acknowledgement that you've done something and somebody's noticed that. Like the child that gets a sticker, you can suddenly see the shoulders go back. Well, it works the same for adults. Ultimately, sometimes, bribery or that physical, oh, I got a sticker today. And that's what adults need as well. We need that, oh, somebody's noticed. And for us, things like TAP, we do little whispers. I give out postcards, those 1980s little bugs that say you're amazing. Little things like that staff can just walk into their room and find something on their desk, or they get a message to their phone in an evening, and it just puts a smile on people's face.
That's great. You kind of the next question that I had is like how do messages of thanks really boost staff well-being? And you've explained that, and it's nice to hear that the TAP platform fits in with some of the other things that you do as well. And it's interesting to hear you talk about that, because one of the things that we've noticed on the platform that actually was a completely unplanned thing. Yeah. As I mentioned, that the platform was there to try and have parents in the education sector, parents give these messages of thanks through to teachers. But what we've noticed is that there's an awful lot of activity which is teacher to teacher thanking, which is, it's not just coming from you, it's coming from all the different teachers. So it obviously, and that's apparent at Ayres Monsell School, so it's obviously something that you've got, it's not just you, Kerry, you've managed to put it into your kind of school DNA.
I think that's really important. For me, mental health and well-being in whatever form, whether it's gratitude and thanks, or as I say, training and development and curriculum, it has to be part of the fabric of your school. It can't just be a bolt-on, or it just won't work. So when I started having early conversations with TAP and they were discussing kind of pupils and parents angle, instantly for me, I went, but what about my staff? Because for us, it is that whole school culture. It's not about one group or another. So for us, a way to instantly embed it in our school was to give staff that opportunity. And I think we're well over kind of 95% of our staff are regularly using it, which is great. For me, I think it is the fact that no matter who you are or where you are, TAP is accessible because it's just from a phone, it's 30 seconds, and it doesn't matter. So if you're somebody that isn't very confident as a staff member to actually go up and say, do you know what, I really liked that, or I really appreciated that, or I thought that was amazing. If you don't have that confidence, actually the security of doing it through WhatsApp still allows you to have that contact, just as it does for our hard to reach parents or those working parents who can't come and say thank you to the teacher because they're having to work. So it's just a really accessible, friendly platform, but allows people to engage with it at their own pace. So there's no demand, there's no expectation. And I think because there isn't a demand and expectation, it actually makes it more exciting when you do get a buzz and you see the little logo, and you kind of going, oh, actually somebody's noticed me, somebody's recognized something. And the power of doing it across your school community, and our governors also are signed up as well, is it just means you can create that real culture of thanks and gratitude. No matter who you are, what your position, everybody can be involved, everybody's voice is important, and everybody gets to have that opportunity to take that moment to say, do you know what? You made a difference to me today, and I want to say thank you. And I think it's great for the person receiving the text, but actually if you look at research, the person giving that act of gratitude and kindness, it actually supports your well-being as well.
Yeah.
So it has that double effect.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit like giving presents at Christmas.
Yeah, it's a random act of kindness, and there's so much research now around that. Tap is a really lovely random act of kindness.
Yeah, great stuff. Listen, Kerry, I was on your website earlier on today, and I noticed that that you're not scared to talk about mental health and well-being. It's right up there, kind of front and center on your website. And one of the things that really interested me is when on the section on mental health and well-being, when I scrolled down, you had two pyramids, a pink one and a green one. One being about pupil mental health and well-being, and the other about employee or teacher mental health and well-being. So I mean, it's the first time I've seen mental health mentioned on a school's website actively like that. Not that I search them all the time, but certainly the first time that I've seen this distinction that actually mental well-being and mental health, you know, affect the two different communities at the school, the workers and the children. So can you just elaborate your kind of thinking behind that?
Ultimately, I think it's let's get realistic in education. You are not going to have happy, high achieving, successful children if your staff are stressed, burnt out, and not enjoying the job. It's just that simple. It genuinely is not rocket science. And we're human. As I said before, everybody has mental health. And we really need to talk about it, just like we talk about physical health. And there can be so much stigma around mental health that people think of it more of the mental health diagnosis, rather than just mental health is just about how we cope and function with our daily lives. And as humans, we can't, and I don't want my staff to switch off when they get to the front door and become robots. I don't want robots in my building. I want people who care, who feel, who love what they're doing. And that does mean we have to support the whole person in terms of a staff member, just as we have to support the whole child. So it is acknowledging, you know, people go through tough situations in their life. And sometimes that baggage, that stress, that pressure comes through the door. And we either ignore it and just go, do you know what, just go and do your job. Or actually we recognize it and go, do you know what, I can see you're struggling. What can I do to help? And I might not be able to help, but just in that sentence of what can I do to help? Somebody then knows somebody cares, somebody's listening, and you're more than just a bum on a seat doing a job. And that's why it's critical that staff are looked after and that school leaders understand the importance of looking after staff. Because if your staff aren't doing a good job, because of all the noise in the background, children are not going to academically achieve. And it is that simple.
Yeah. And another question, sort of following up, you know, on that mental health and staff well-being. Do you think that this is obviously a kind of specialist area for you, Kerry, and you certainly seem to be pushing things locally in your area, pushing things forward. Do you think it's an area that isn't really focused on that much in education in general, or do you think these issues are being picked up sort of nationally?
Now very much they're being picked up nationally. I think the issue is, as a school, in 2016, I was off ill. I was off for a significant period of time, not kind of mental health or stress related. But actually, when I was off for nearly a year, I really struggled not being in school and not seeing people. And so I might need to ask you the question again. So coming back, you then kind of go, well, actually, that was quite a big transformation for me because I struggled myself with that long-term absence. So then it was about coming back and resetting and going, well, hang on, if other people are feeling like that now, if they're going through things in their life that make them feel like that, we have to do something.
Okay.
And I've completely forgotten the question.
I was just saying, do you think it's you that's at the
That was
forefront of it, or
it.
do you think that everybody
That
else?
was
I don't
it.
mind when you spin off.
That was it. So I say, so 2016, so that led us to 2017. So 2017, 18 is where we went, do you know what? We can't lose anything. We're bottom of the country for our results near enough. So we might as well do something completely different. So that was then when we completely transformed our ethos and curriculum to be underpinned by character development and mental health and well-being. 2017-18 was just as the government was starting to bring out its green paper and things like that. So we were kind of ahead of the game. So for a couple of years, not really. COVID, I think, absolutely has brought mental health to the forefront. And I think that understanding now of the impact that mental health can have in your school community. I think previously, if you were interested in it, there was stuff out there. But certainly the last kind of 12 months, 18 months, it's really come on the focus a lot more. And certainly in the since the national lockdown, kind of schools nationally getting in touch with me, getting in touch with our school, we've seen a significant rise. And for us, we can evidence the impact that it's made in our school. And I think that's the difference. I think mental health can be quite tangible. So, you know, people say, oh, staff mental health, here's a green paper, here's a this, here's a that. But we can actually go, no, we did this, and this is the impact that it's had on our school. And we're bottom 10% national deprivation, and our children now are in the top 1% for progress.
Wow, congratulations, that's amazing. Okay, so twisting things a tiny bit round to the TAP platform again. So as Kerry knows, but just for the rest of the people listening in, you can also raise funds through the TAP platform, obviously aimed at the parents of your pupils. And any funds that are raised across the platform are matched in Kerry's case by Book Life Publishing. So they'll match the funds, and they try and double it up and give you sort of books for your school. So I know it's quite early days for you with this project, but what are your thoughts on that, and how do you think it's going to pan out?
I think ultimately it's really difficult in a kind of COVID climate, as I say, particularly in our catchment. We have a catchment which, as a school, we are supporting with food parcels, breakfast boxes, and things like that. So for us, it is going to be something that grows because we're not in an affluent community. I think for me, what's lovely about the platform being supported by Book Life Publishing, as I said, is that we get access to much needed funding from parents and carers. And also that ultimately for us, it's books, it's reading, it's a love of reading and reading underpinning our curriculum. So for us, it's a win-win. If parents, organisations, people we work with, kind of visitors who come and we support them, if they want to make a donation, great. That donation gets transferred into things that will make a difference for the children in my school.
Excellent. Thanks, Kerry. Okay, another question for you. Obviously, I'm certain that that the people that we've got listening in today, you know, are working in the education sector, but some of them may or may not be part of senior leadership teams in their own schools. So have you got any sort of advice or messages specifically to them?
For senior leaders, I think it's really, really important that if you're wanting to develop mental health and wellbeing in your school, it is really important that the leadership is fully behind it and it becomes part of that ingrained ethos that you're developing. Particularly because leaders are the people in power. You are the people that can enhance and improve the well-being across your staff. And as I said, I know the impact that it's had in our school and how that has impacted on, you know, the teaching and the successes that then have come. And because our teachers are happier, are enjoying what they do, are motivated, ultimately then it impacts on the teaching they provide. So it enhances their literacy and numeracy and everything else. So it has that knock-on effect to the pupil progress. So for me, it really is about we need to find, as leaders, every opportunity to boost our staff, not just our children. And it is in boosting our staff well-being, making people feel valued, making them feel motivated, making them want to succeed in the job that they're doing, that ultimately has that knock-on success to the school as a whole. But it is critical that leaders invest in it, because if you don't have them invested, it's not going to go far enough.
Good stuff. Great stuff, Kerry. Listen, you mentioned that, the TAP platform is part of this, sense of, supporting teachers' mental health and well-being in the school. So very briefly, you've had obviously recent, in the last 6 months, experience of setting up TAP in your school. Was it nice and easy and straightforward to set up for you?
TAP's fabulous. I think TAP genuinely, and I'm not just saying that because you've invited me on a webinar, TAP genuinely was probably one of the easiest things to set up, because literally it's in the power, it's in the hands of the people who want to do it. And I think that's really important. It's people choose to be involved in TAP. We didn't demand everybody had to do it. So it's your choice, first of all, but it literally takes about a minute for a staff member to register with TAP. They literally just contact TAP via WhatsApp, and that's pretty much it. You can then get cracking. So in terms of that, you then just send, if you want to then send a TAP, and we literally do use that language. We share its thanks and praise, but we just kind of talk about, oh, I got a TAP today. And it literally is that. You just send a text message to TAP, if I can remember the phone number, or if you're sharing that at the end, look. And that's it. It's as simple as writing a text message. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I promise you, everybody, Kerry's not on the payroll.
Can we talk about that, look? No, not really.
Listen, great stuff. I wondered if we've got any questions from the audience that's here. If anybody's got any questions, they can just pop them on the chat, and I'll look out for that. And in the meantime, I don't know if, James, you've got a couple of questions that you wanted to throw in there anyway.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So we've got one question in that actually was very similar to what Kerry's already answered around how simple it is to set up, and it really is as simple as Kerry said, around just sending a quick WhatsApp message with your name, the school you're involved in, and you're set up straight away. Also, there's a question around, is the TAP platform secure? Does it meet GDPR requirements? And the easy answer to that is absolutely. As Kerry said already, it's completely consensual. Thanking the school staff data will never be shared or accessible outside the TAP platform. And TAP prides itself on being a safe and secure platform. There you go.
Great stuff. Well, listen, Kerry, thank you very, very much for your support and your amazing insight and points of view this afternoon. It's been really, really great stuff listening to you, and it's the first time I've met you this afternoon, and it's been really, really good. And I like that wallpaper in the background as well.
Yeah, I think it's one that we've not got around to decorating during COVID. Look.
It looks very Christmassy. Okay, well, listen, thanks very much, Kerry. It's been absolutely fabulous, and you're a brilliant person to have to talk about TAP, and it's been really interesting hearing about all of your plans for the well-being of your staff at your school. So good luck, and hopefully, it's not going to be too difficult for you for the next 2 weeks, and you'll get a little bit of time off over Christmas, a tiny bit.
Can I just mention as well, in case there are any school leaders out there, because I know kind of money and purse strings is a big thing, TAP is free. It's free, people. It's free. It's free, thanks, and potentially it's free books and money. So, you kind of give it a go. I say we love it, but yeah, it's free, it's easy, doesn't take a lot of time, you don't have to manage it, and it helps people. So
fantastic. Well, Kerry, you're a great supporter of TAP, and just to sort of reiterate our mission, our mission is to ensure that there is a sense of giving thanks and showing gratitude to key workers throughout lockdown. We've definitely noticed that there is that overall kind of social change, but our mission is very much to make sure that that change isn't temporary. It's not just a COVID thing. And those positive thoughts and feelings and messages, we want them to continue forevermore, you know, and that's the mission of TAP. I mean, we can support raising funds for schools, and by the way, you know, Book Life Publishing that is backing your fund, they're a very happy corporate partner. You know, they're delighted to be doing their bit, because normally these companies, they have a CSR, corporate social responsibility budget, which traditionally is just advertising. They're just trying to make it look like they're socially responsible. Whereas this is an opportunity for them to actually be socially responsible, to actually do something positive and make a difference. So we do believe that the TAP platform is a win-win-win. So that, you know, the giver of thanks wins, the school wins, and the organisations that are supporting it wins. Okay, guys, it's been a great session this afternoon. Thanks again, Kerry, and thanks for all of you that attended, and great stuff. Bye, Kerry.